So welcome everyone to the first ever pre-health application week that's leading up to our health school fair on Friday the 16th. This is the Nursing Becoming a Healthcare Superhero event. And we are here to talk to you about nursing. So Carla, can you go to the next slide? Perfect. So as I mentioned, this is our very first pre-health application week. We started yesterday. We had events on allopathic and osteopathic medicine. Today was the physician assistant and the nursing one currently. And as you can see on the right side of your screen, we're gonna have plenty of others coming up. And you can also join others if you are still in the career exploration phase of your education. So in the career, after the pre-health application week, our next event is the pre-health fair, the health school fair, sorry. Carla, can you move the There you go. So the health school fair is technically an annual event, and we offer it every single year in April, except last year, COVID threw us too big of a curve to be able to manage to move it to Zoom at the time, but we have it this time, and there are over 50 schools registered, which we are very excited about. And please make sure that you attend the fair to meet with admissions representatives such as Mark and Cynthia. And there are other nursing schools visiting us virtually through the fair. Make sure that you register for one-on-one slots to connect directly with admissions and collect information on your personal situation. And you can ask in-depth questions about your application that you usually don't have a chance to do so from admissions. So make sure you register. You can find more information on the prehealth.ucla.edu/application week, and you can see all the schools who will be in attendance. Next slide. And I think I'm done, and I'm gonna transfer the steering wheel to Carla. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that great introduction. Again, my name is Carla Del Cid, and I am currently in the master's program at the UCLA School of Nursing. I previously actually have a biology degree, bachelor's at UCLA. So I am a double Bruin. So I'm like most of your guys' cases right now, maybe trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do after graduation. So a quick backstory, after I got my biology degree, I had no idea what to do. So I did a lot of research, used to work for UCLA Health for like an STI HIV organization. And I also obtained my nurse assistant certification. And you know what? Those two together actually drew me to this MECing program because this program is very intensive in research as well in bedside care. So I got to have like the best of both worlds. So I really hope you guys find this information session really helpful. And thank you again for participating and being here. Alrighty, so we'll just introduce to Mark Coven, and then later we'll talk to Cynthia, and they can do a brief introduction about themselves real quickly.
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Carla. Good to see you as well. I know it's been over a year since we were able to see each other running through our different offices and all that sort of stuff. So it's really good to see you. But hi, everyone. My name is Mark Coven. I am the Director for Recruitment, Outreach, and Admission here at the UCLA School of Nursing. Been working in the School of Nursing for about 12 years, but I am in year 2 as Director of Recruitment, Outreach, and Admission. So just want to say thank you and looking forward to it today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cynthia Marino. I am the Student Affairs Manager within the Office of Student Affairs at Columbia University School of Nursing in New York. It is 3 hours ahead, so it is 7 o'clock here. But it's great to meet all of you. I've been with the School of Nursing for a little over 6 years now. And basically my role is inclusive of admission, student services, and student life. So I pretty much work with students from the point of application to when they graduate our programs.
Thank you both again for agreeing and being here and talking to our students and answering some questions for us. So we'll just begin by, how about Cynthia, if you can first answer, who would be a strong candidate and what qualities are you looking for?
So I think for us, in terms of our programs, we offer two distinct programs that are on the graduate level side. So the first being our master's degree program for individuals who do not have a nursing background. So if you're looking to become a registered nurse, our program would be that fit for you or be that starting point. Our second program is our doctoral programs, and it's broken down into our DMP and our PhD program. And so I would say that overall, in terms of what we're looking for in terms of our candidates, nursing is one of those professions that is, you're working with people, right? It's a people sort of passion driven profession. And so for us, we look at our applicants very holistically. So we're not just looking at your academics, but we're looking at your essays, we're looking at your recommendation letters. So we're looking at all those different things. And so for us, we want to make sure that you're not just a good academic fit, but rather you're an overall strong fit for our program. And so for us, it's really looking at candidates who are very well-rounded, and are able to not just bring in their academic strengths, but also able to bring in their life experiences. In terms of our student population, the average age is around 24, but our age range is, from 21 or 22 up until 62, 65. And so it really is a wide range. And so for us, we're also looking for that life experience as well. But I think for us, it's having a really well-rounded applicant we would consider as a strong candidate.
Yeah, and I can, echo those comments as well. Here in the School of Nursing, it's pretty much similar and the same in terms of looking at a student holistically, right, and making sure that they are well-rounded, and that they're strong in all areas, right? So academically, as well as having their passion displayed in their application in terms of being a nurse. That is really, really key for us. I know we're going to talk about different ways of how to be, I guess specifically a strong candidate, especially due to COVID and whatnot. But yeah, we definitely just want to make sure that if this is your, what we like to call a second career choice, right? Because you're going to be graduating with a major in another discipline. What was it that, helped transition you from one major into wanting to be a nurse? And, I think the beauty within our program is that everyone's background, the reasons for wanting to become a nurse is going to be different. And so sometimes it's always hard to say, hey, what is a strong applicant or a strong candidate? Because you're all going to look different, but you're going to be strong in your own right, right? And so, yeah, definitely it's just making sure, um, that you have leadership experience, multicultural experience. We can go further and on in terms of those sort of things. But it's not always just academically. A lot of people think, hey, I have to have this GPA over the minimum, or my prerequisites. I have to be a certain grade. That's not the telltale. So definitely well-rounded, just like Cynthia was saying.
Thank you both so much for insightful answers. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next question. What does your admission process and timeline look like? Who's involved? And are there any changes due to COVID? So it's probably like the most important question everyone must be thinking of right now because of the current pandemic. So Mark, would you like to start on this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so a lot of people have questions about our timeline and admissions process, especially right because of the pandemic and what COVID has done. But sometimes I give them a simple answer and say, hey, nothing has changed in terms of our deadlines and whatnot. And so I can preface it that way, or I can say, yeah, there have been some things that have changed in terms of what the faculty are looking for. So I'll speak a little bit about both of those. So in terms of the admissions process, yes, our deadlines are still the same. The application will typically or should still open up around the same time. So for our graduate programs, UCLA does have the application open up after Labor Day. And so we always say after Labor Day because graduate division doesn't give us a specific date. So it could be that Tuesday or maybe that Thursday, whatever the case is, but it typically opens up the week after Labor Day. And so depending on the program, for you guys who are interested in becoming a nurse, you're most likely interested in our MECHN program, which is the Master's Entry Clinical Nurse that Carla is currently in. And so that deadline always has a November 1st date. Um, been that way for my 12 years there. And so, yeah, that is a date that will most likely remain the same. Um, the timeline in terms of how the admissions process works, right? So you're going to apply by November, and typically our goal is to notify applicants in the month of February if they've been admitted or not. And so, yeah, we were able and we were lucky enough to also stick to that goal this year, especially due to the pandemic. So we're able to release our decisions in February, and we are now collecting our students who are going to be ready to start this fall. And I would say the only thing in terms of things that have changed due to COVID, and hopefully I could about it here, maybe we can talk about it later, but I'll just mention it really quickly, is the opportunity of gaining healthcare experience, right? And so I know a lot of you guys are thinking about, what can I do? Can I go out to these hospitals and volunteer and get into their volunteer programs or internships and things like that? Obviously, because of COVID, you're not able to. And so that has been, I guess, kind of a bump in terms of applicants really, trying to showcase their passion for nursing besides having their personal reasons. And so our faculty were aware of it. And so as we went through the application process, we went into it knowing that, hey, this applicant pool is going to look a little bit different, that they may not have the typical experience that we are looking for, but that would not hinder the applicant's opportunity of being admitted into the program. So in terms of the changes that COVID provided, I think that's probably the biggest thing. The deadline, time, and process in terms of getting our students had remained the same, but we wanted to make sure that we reiterated, to the applicants that um, still apply in the essays that we require and so forth. You still articulate yourself and you give us reasons for why you want to apply to the program and what you think you can get out of it, future goals, and things of that nature. But sorry, I'll stop blabbling. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Oh no, you're fine. Don't worry about it. So I would say for us in terms of our admissions process, so it's going to vary for the individual programs that we offer. So the deadlines are going to be looking a little bit different. But overall, in terms of the admissions process, essentially it goes through two phases. So the first sort of step is after an applicant submits the application, it goes through our admissions team, review the application for completeness, and then from there we transition that over to our faculty committee, who then reviews the application and then makes the decisions. For our master direct entry program, so for individuals who don't have a nursing background, the deadline for that program is typically in October. It's always been October 15th or around that date. And then we'll push out decisions as well in February. This year, we actually pushed it out earlier. We pushed it out in January. So that was actually a first for us. And we decided to actually do 2 rounds because our applications having increased substantially, right? I think that's the other thing with going into nursing now is that because of the pandemic, a lot of people have been called to this profession. And so we've seen an increase in applications, which I'm not sure if you've seen that, Mark. Yes. So it has become a lot more competitive. So like our applications this year went up 30% because, this year. So, but the way that our programs work is that we actually, it's a cohort style. So we start every summer. So for our MDE program, it starts in June and then concludes the following August. So it is a 15-month accelerated program. And then for our DMP and nurse anesthesia programs, they also start in the summer as well. And then our PhD program begins in the fall. So those particular, but in terms of the deadlines, they always tend to be around the same. So like MDE is in October, nurse anesthesia is in September, PhD is in December, and then our DMP is in January. In terms of any changes due to COVID, I can't say that there were any changes with our admissions process per se due to COVID. I would say more on the academic end and more on our students that enrolled. Those are where those changes were. So for last year, for our 2020 incoming class, our didactic class, they had to switch around the curriculum. So it was pretty much just switching around, like one students, did their clinicals and one students did their didactic courses, just to accommodate the changes that happened, due to COVID. But in terms of our didactic classes, they were all online. And then our clinicals were in person. So students were still coming on campus safely, obviously, with restrictions. And then for this incoming cohort, I believe there's still going to be some modifications due to COVID for the summer, but the goal is to get students on campus in the fall. And that's a directive from our university president. But in terms of our admissions process, there weren't necessarily any changes with COVID. I think that we were actually more ahead of the curve this year because of our increase in applicants.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Alrighty. So what are the components of a competitive application aside from GPA and test scores with consideration for personal statement, letters of rec, etc.? So I think you guys did a good job touching upon it. Like you guys want holistic views, but maybe I'm not sure how much the audience want you guys to go into much depth.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think how
I feel like,
transparent I should be.
yeah, I think like from an applicant perspective, and I'm sorry, Mark,
No,
but
go.
I feel like from an applicant perspective, I think it's important to put emphasis on all of the different parts of your application, right? Like, so when you're thinking about the application process, you want to think to yourself, well, what's going to make me stand out from other applicants who may be applying to this program, right? So one thing that I noticed in this application cycle is that a lot of applicants use COVID as like an essay topic. And so I think that that was, I mean, it impacted all of us, right? So it makes sense as why that would be a topic. But I would say like moving forward, right, if you're looking at nursing schools, I would probably try to stay away from that topic actually, right? Or maybe use something to spin it in a way where it is, it makes you stand out from other applicants who are also using that topic in knowing that. So I say you want to kind of like put, emphasis to all the different parts. One of the things that like our students, when we've done information sessions that they've done and have found helpful for them, is that they'll actually like create a spreadsheet with like all the schools that they're applying to, and then lay out what all of the requirements are for those individual schools. And then if there's anything that's like different per school, then they would also make sure that they have an emphasis on that. So like, for example, for Columbia, we don't do interviews for our MDE program. Instead, we have a video essay. And so that may be unique from other schools. And so you want to kind of take note of those kind of like nuances.
Totally. I think you hit it, the nail right on the head. In terms of, going back and looking at what our applicants for this past year and what they were putting down in their essays. A lot of them were speaking to, the pandemic, which is totally fine. For us, we also, want them to emphasize their future goals as a nurse in terms of where they see themselves. So that's really key. And again, if the pandemic is what jump-started it, okay, that's totally fine. But what type of nurse do you see yourself as? A travel nurse? Somewhere, nurse in the military? Do you see yourself furthering education? Maybe becoming an NP or getting your doctorate? Do you want to start your own clinic? Do you want to go back to your underserved community? Right? There's so much that we would want to see from you, but there's no particular right answer, right? So definitely, speaking to that is definitely key. I think our personal statement and our statement of purpose are probably where our faculty are able to get the most insight of who you are. Of course, we ask for letters of recommendations, but that's kind of like icing on the cake. So, usually you're going to hopefully select a recommender who's going to write you, an amazing letter. But definitely it's really us getting an insight of who you are. As you know, nursing is that profession where you're going to have to show compassion, right? And so we want to make sure that if there's, your current life experience and things that you've gone through, can you relate, to the future patients that you're going to be seeing, right? And so I guess that circles back to kind of what we're saying is making sure that, we want to see you as well-rounded and having that holistic approach. So yeah, don't worry too much about GPA and test scores. I think if you're going to be applying to this program, that you are going to be competitive already academically speaking. So you really want to make sure that you touch upon the other points.
The other thing that I want to add is with the letters of recommendation, you want to find people that are going to advocate for you into entering a program and are going to be able to write a positive letter of recommendation. So definitely making sure that whoever you ask is able to fulfill that for you. And then I'd say this isn't really a component of the application, but definitely related to the process is making sure that you're starting it early and that you're submitting it early. So not waiting until the actual application deadline to submit it, but actually doing it in advance of that.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially from like I was there in their guys' shoes a couple of years ago. If I can throw my 2 cents, I think it's really important that your passion just stands out. I think they can really tell like how, you know, words can really show a lot and like why you're so passionate about being a nurse. And if you can really make that stand out, like that will stand you out from like the rest of the application. So thank you guys. We can move on to the next question. So what type of experiences do programs look for students to have on their application? Are there consideration for impacts due to COVID? And should students consider taking a gap year to gain more experience? Would it help? Oh, there's a lot. So we can just take each one by one. How about Cynthia, if you can like to start?
So we actually don't require any experience going into our MDE program. You know, it's not something that we require, but I would say that what I see in applications is a lot of students do have like research experience or have some sort of like volunteer experience of working in a clinic or working in a hospital. But it's not necessarily something that we require. And I think that for us, it's because you're getting that experience in the program and because we're cognizant of the fact that our students, they're coming from all different walks of life. So we've had students that come straight from undergrad. We've had students that were teachers, we're accountants, we're opera singers, actors. And so for us, we don't necessarily require that. And what was the other? I think we're at number 3 on the slide.
Number 4.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then, are there any considerations for impacts due to COVID? No, not that we've discussed so far. That may change going into the future, but as of right now, no. And there weren't in this past application cycle. Should students consider taking a gap year to gain more experience? Oh, we'll answer that later.
Yeah, so what type of experience do programs, what do we look for? There's no specific, or there's not a specific type of experience, I should say, but we do get applicants who have a wide range of experience, right? And so I can ask Carla, like, hey, what type of experience did you have, right? And it'd be different from, her current classmate. But saying that, we have applicants who have an LVN, those that have a CNA, those that have an EMT, those that did a mission trip, those that, right, have gone through a volunteer program at their local hospital or internship, right? So there's so many different things that our applicants can do. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that we're not looking for one particular thing. Those just volunteer regular hours, right? So again, we're not looking for one thing, but I think the biggest thing is just what you can take out of that experience, right? What did you learn from that experience, and how you can articulate that and put that down in the essays and explaining why you feel this is your continued passion in terms of wanting to be a nurse. So I usually want to say, yeah, don't think there's one right answer in terms of getting in. There's not, and again, I think that's the good thing, right? Is that you are unique in your own right, and you just put that down in the application. And in terms of the considerations that impacted COVID, I think it was kind of like what I was alluding to earlier, is just making sure that our faculty know that this year's applicants or next year's applicants, would look different in terms of just the experience that you're able to gain. But besides that, there's no other type of impacts that came from COVID. Should I talk about the gap year? I mean, for me, I I always like to throw it back and have it be kind of rhetorical, in the sense that it's up to you in terms if you want to take a gap year, to be honest. We don't look at the year when the applicant graduates. And I think Cynthia kind of threw it out there. Their average age for students is 24. Ours is probably somewhere in the 20s as well. But yeah, we have applicants that are in their 50s, or I'm sorry, students that are admitted there in their 50s, right? And so we get those that are just graduating or those that have been in their, old career, I guess we could say it, for 15, 20 years and circle back. So gap year is not something that we're worried about. And it's not something we recommend or not. So I think it's up to you in terms of when you want to apply. Do you feel, 110%, that old saying, that how comfortable do you feel when you do apply that you gave it your all, right? So if you feel like you're not ready, wait another year or wait until the next term to apply. But I think that should be kind of a self-reflection.
I agree. And yeah, there's some people in my cohort who actually like never been to a hospital. It was their first time, or like they just graduated straight from undergrad. So everyone is so unique in this. So that's what's the beauty about like the master's program. Like everyone just has a different background. That's what like led them to be these great nurses in 2 months. So next question. What advice would you give to someone applying this upcoming cycle or anything we haven't covered? So Mark, you like to start?
Yeah, I kind of felt like I answered that in the last one. Yeah, so, oh man, advice. Um, I can also circle back and say what Cynthia said is put that spreadsheet together. I always recommend that for people. First thing is having your goal. Do you want to do maybe an accelerated BSN as a master entry, whatever your case is, right? So you think about that. You also think about what your ultimate goal is, NP, doctorate, if it's a PhD or DNP, right? So kind of put that spreadsheet together in terms of, or first the spreadsheet in terms of pros and cons, right? In terms of what you want to be and how you want to go about doing that, right? And then putting a spreadsheet together in terms of, okay, do I want to only go to schools in California? Or do I want to go to schools in the East Coast, right? So then you have Columbia and all these other great schools, right? NYU, Johns Hopkins, and so forth, right? And so then you're putting together a list of what those admission requirements are, deadlines, so forth. I think that is the first thing that everyone should do. And then with that, see what the remission requirements are in terms of letters of recommendations, how many essays, circle back and start early, right? So if they do say statement of purpose, they should have areas of what they would want you to cover in the essays, start writing those out now. And I think what will end up happening is hopefully as these hospitals open up, hopefully at some point, these nursing homes, clinics, whatever the case is, that you'll start to be able to get some experience. And that might also help you decide and solidify if nursing is what you want. Right. I think that's another thing too, is making sure that, the pandemic has pushed us to wanting to help others, but you really want to make sure that, this is your career choice. So yeah, I think that'd be my advice to give.
I would add to that, and kind of going back to your earlier point about determining what your goals are, definitely focusing on that and reflecting on that if you haven't already. Nursing is one of those fields that the credentials and the requirements for those credentials change, right, over time. So like at one point, to become a registered nurse, all you needed was an associate's degree. Then from there, transition to a bachelor's degree. And then now it's a master's degree, right? And every school is going to offer something different. And so you definitely want to think about your goals. You always want to my recommendation is kind of like starting from the end and then working your way backwards, right? And kind of to that piece of, if you want to become an advanced practice nurse, right? How can you like start that pathway, right? Then you're going to work backwards to that. And doing your research in that way. You want to kind of think long term. If you want to become a CRNA, right, or nurse anesthetist, there are specific requirements for that. And so you definitely want to make sure that you kind of have those long-term goals panned out. If it's just a registered nurse, that's totally fine, right? But you want to identify that. The other piece of that is looking at the prerequisites, right? Especially if you don't have a science background, you definitely want to make sure that you plan out when you're taking those prereqs. Since you're all in school, right, this is probably going to look very different because you're taking classes, but there may be some prereqs that you may need to take now, that you have the ability to take now, as opposed to taking it after you've graduated, where you may have to like find a school to complete that. But you definitely want to give yourself enough time between the application deadline for those prereqs, also understanding that schools may require different prerequisite courses, right? So like and some schools may require labs and other schools may not require labs, right? So like for us, we don't require labs, but there are definitely schools that do require labs. And so you want to make sure that you understand those nuances as well and that you're preparing for that.
All right. Let's see. So this will have a chance to have the audience to ask some Q&A questions. Maybe they'll feel free to unmute themselves and ask Mark and our Columbia representative here. Don't be shy.
Yeah, and just in case people are a little shy, should we leave our email, our contact information? Because I know for myself, I am totally fine with answering questions via email. We're all Zooming nowadays, so I can even do that if people have specific questions that they
Feel
would like
free
to do.
to
So,
drop your emails in the chat, but I will send a follow-up email
Okay.
too, which it will include that as well.
Perfect.
And might as well, since I'm unmuted, do you have any entrance exams for your program?
No, we do not. No entrance exam. The only exam that we would require would be the TOEFL exam, which is for international students or people who have graduated from a program internationally. I will say, though, that our faculty are currently looking into requiring the GRE. I don't think it's going to happen, but just always want to say that. But if that is the case, the way UCLA works, it's going to take probably a couple years for that to be implemented. But just to kind of keep that in the back of your mind, at least if you're applying for this upcoming year, it would not have or would not be a requirement.
Same as Mark and UCLA. So we don't require GREs for any of our programs with the exception of our PhD program. And we're exploring actually not requiring the GREs for that program, but that is thinking long-term. And then we do require the TOEFL for international students. So that is the only requirement.
Well, there is some additional questions that I can ask, such as what is the difference between applying to a direct entry MSN program and the accelerated BSN program? If you can just clarify the two.
That's a great question. I feel like, so do you have a accelerated BSN program, Mark? Okay. So we transitioned a couple of years ago from a BSN to an MS program or a BS to MS program. And basically for us, the difference was it was an increase in credits. So now we're at 72 credits for our MS program, and there's an extra semester. So there is an additional leadership component that's integrated within the curriculum. So it essentially gives or prepares students to be able to take on increased leadership roles once they graduate from our program, and sort of thinking more complex within the healthcare setting. But really the recommendation kind of came from our national nurse accrediting body, where they recommended that nursing schools increase their degrees or transition their degrees. And so this was kind of as a result of that, but the change is really sort of in the curriculum.
Yeah, and just really fast, yeah, we don't offer an accelerated BSN program. I think our reasons is pretty easy. UCLA does not allow students to come back for a second bachelor's degree. And so that's where in 2006 we created our master's entry. So it's just can't even be an option. And so that's why we offer the MECN program.
How long is your program, Mark?
Say that again?
How long is your program?
Yeah, so our MECN program, master's entry, is 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years.
And then at Columbia, for ours, it's 15 months.
I was gonna say, I think, I don't know. I think Carla may have asked a question, and it always makes me think of when people ask me this question. And so maybe I'll kind of reverse the question in terms of, do people think an accelerated BSN is better than a master's entry, or is it vice versa? Is a master's entry better than a BSN? Um, I think that's a hard question to answer because I think it also depends on, again, what the person's ultimate goal is. And there's different ways of going about getting there. And so, yeah, I think the main thing is first determining, um, do I just want to be a registered nurse and work bedside? Or again, do I want to kind of further my education? And I think from there, then there's different avenues. And we can always talk about those later, but I think it's kind of a one-on-one type of question in terms of figuring out first, what do you want to do in your nursing career?
I have a question. So I just wanted to ask, so I was doing some research and I saw something where you have to know what type of like area in nursing that you want to go into, because certain schools have like a particular specialty. So I was wondering if like, because I don't know what exactly I want to do in the nursing like field. So is it okay if I just like apply? Do I have to know what I want to do specifically to like apply to a certain school and what they specialize in, or does it not matter?
If I can answer that real quickly, I'm about to graduate in like 2 months and I still have no idea what I want to do. So you could totally ask Mark and our other representative here.
Yeah, I would say at Columbia, no, you don't need to have a specialty that you're interested in going in. I'd say, a lot of our students do come in thinking, hey, I think I want to go into this area, and then it changes by the end of their program. But the nice thing about going into an entry program is that you're getting that broad experience in all these different areas. So for us, we do our 5x5 rotations where our students get that experience in those 5 different areas. So they are able to work with different populations and different settings. And usually that kind of like, for them is a really good kind of like exploratory phase of, hey, I think I want to work with kids, or maybe I came in wanting to work with kids and I don't like working with kids after doing this rotation. And so, for us, we don't have that.
And then going off, oh, sorry.
No, go.
No, I was going to say, going off of that, when you mean by like the accelerator program, is that synonymous as to people that are like going into nursing school that don't have a nursing major?
Yes. So it's someone who doesn't have a nursing background. They want to accelerated basically means that you're completing the program in a short amount of time. So, our program is literally you're in and you're out in 15 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for your insight in all this. There's a question in the chat from Emma. She says, what do you recommend for non-nursing students that are interested in pursuing a career as a nurse practitioner? There's also a link for other nursing paths if she's more interested, but I don't know if either of you guys want to tackle on that question. I know like UCLA, there's like no pathway from the master's to the NP. So yeah, that's maybe something either you guys would like to discuss.
Yeah. I have these conversations all the time with people. So yeah, currently right now, those that go through our master's entry program and they want to become an NP, unfortunately, we do not have a specific program for them. At that point, they would be considered a postmaster's student. And just a quick explanation on that, a postmaster's is someone, let me back up. Our master's entry program is an MSN degree, okay? Just like typical NP programs are MSN degrees. Just like how UCLA says you are not able to receive 2 bachelor's degrees, it's also the same in terms of not being able to receive 2 of the same master's degrees. So yes, the master's entry is an MSN and the NP is an MSN, even though they're different tracks or different kind of programs, specialties, I guess, in a sense. And so because of it, if someone completes our MSN, master's entry program, they cannot then apply to our MSN NP. They would then be considered a postmaster. So postmaster is someone who already has the MSN and wants to get into a program to get their NP certification, right? And so that would be the program for people who want to complete our MECN and get into an NP. At this time, we do not have a postmaster's. And so yeah, there are other programs that do, and a lot of our graduates at this time are going to other universities around California or across the country. Um, Gosh, I had something else I was going to say, but I forgot. So go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, so we offer the DMP degree is the nurse practitioner, is the advanced practice nursing area for us. And I think that that's where you have to look at degree and license, right? So you have one license and multiple degrees to get there. So there are schools that offer it as a master's degree. There are other schools that offer it as a doctorate degree. And so you definitely want to make sure that you're kind of tracking that. And, you know, it is very confusing. So having that spreadsheet and doing that research will definitely help. But I would say that if you're, so for us, we offer it in 5 different specialty areas. So acute care, adult gerontology, acute care, family primary care, pediatric primary care, nurse midwifery, and psychiatric mental health. I would say that for someone who's interested in becoming an advanced practice nurse, that's the end goal, right? And so from there, when you're in your RN program, you want to do that exploration in working with those different populations and take stock of the population that you know you want to work with, right? Because at that point, once you're going to the MP, right, once you're becoming a nurse practitioner, you do have to identify a specialty. And so different schools are going to offer different specialties. And so you definitely want to do your research in terms of determining what population or area you want to work with. So I would say that would be my recommendation. A lot of our students do continue on from the MDE program into the DMP program. So we do have that as an application option where you can apply MDE DMP. And so for the DMP program at Columbia, it is a 2.5-year program. And so once students complete the MDE program in August, and so from there, they, will do it in one of those specialty areas.
Thank you, Cynthia. Does anyone in the audience have any questions, or I can throw in some questions too? Oh, let's see, we got a chat. All right, from Caitlin, do you have any advice for undergrads on how to go about figuring out if nursing is the right fit for them? Who wants to tackle this?
Yeah, if this was 2019, I would say go out there and volunteer. Right. That'd be the easiest answer. And I think that's, in terms of really trying to figure out if this is what you want. I think now that we're in 2021, we went through a full year of the pandemic, there's going to be a lot more research that you as an individual is going to have to do without really having the ability of volunteering and getting your hands dirty in terms of being able to see what nurses do, being around patients and so forth. So a lot more research in terms of reading, journals, magazines, sending emails, trying to, um, get a mentor for someone who is a nurse, physician, or whatever the case is. Because I think the biggest thing is, I guess you figuring out, maybe it's internal. Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know. What do you think, Cynthia?
I would agree with you. I would have also said volunteer, but that is definitely much more limited nowadays as an option. I think, in addition to doing research, I would add on trying to attend any virtual information sessions that schools offer, and seeing if you can connect with a student and connecting, with faculty. I think those are probably sort of more easier ways so that way you can kind of see, all right, what are the, is this program a right fit for me or not? The other thing too is that the faculty that teach and, are oftentimes practicing as well. So you can also go to them and ask them about life experience. So, don't, hesitate in terms of like asking those questions.
Awesome. Questions from Emma. Would you say we are headed the direction requiring?
I would say it really depends on the school. So again, I think a lot more schools are going to eventually get to a doctorate path, and I've seen on the East Coast, a lot of schools do offer it as a doctorate program for the nurse practitioner license. But it really is dependent on the schools, you know, and so it's dependent, right? Again, it's one of those, nursing is one of those fields where there's multiple degrees for one license, right? So you kind of have to figure out what it is that you want, and then figure out if that program aligns with the goals that you have. But it's definitely, I think that we are going to head into that direction. I still think that it's very new though, because, and this is a much more like loaded answer, because it's not just looking at the education aspect of it. Like, you also have to look at the work experience, right? And like actually entering the profession, right? So the thing that we're seeing is that we have these students that have these doctorate degrees, and I think this is a conversation for another day, right? But we have these students who have these doctorate degrees and have these master's degrees, but don't necessarily, when they enter the profession, people think that they don't have the experience, right? So it's like, what is the difference between someone who is master's prepared and then a nurse who's been in the field for 20 years, right? Those are the questions that are coming up in the workplace, right? And so I think that right now it's still very early, right? But there are obviously like benefits and reasons as to why we've moved in that direction. A lot of schools have moved into that direction. But there's still that like controversy once you enter the workplace, with people who have been in these positions for years and are like, I only have my associate's degree, right? Like, that's the imbalance that we're seeing. So I feel like that's another conversation for another day, but I think that that's the reality, right? Especially if you're going into the nursing field, that you're going to encounter. And I think it's important to be transparent about that.
100%. Not much to said was spot on. The only thing I can just say in terms of the School of Nursing is that, I'm sorry, UCLA, or I would even say almost the West Coast, is that we are behind the East Coast in terms of creating pathways to become a DNP. I've again been working for 12 years, so I started in 2009. In the year of 2010, we already started hearing about kind of master's prepared nurses transitioning to getting their doctorate. We're now in 2021, right? And the School of Nursing is just graduating their second class or third class. So we are a little bit behind on that. I know a lot of other universities on the West Coast are. But to give you a definite answer in terms of will it, we don't know. The answer was probably going to be yes at some point, but right, I'm 12 years in and it hasn't been mandated. So who knows what's going to happen. But just like Cynthia was saying, it's kind of preparing yourself and knowing what you want and going about that. But I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think the biggest thing is, finding the right program for you in terms of first becoming a nurse.
Thank you so much, Cynthia and Mark. Sorry, my internet connection is pretty unstable. This is a cool question. Sorry, from Kimia. Sorry if I butchered her name. Is virtual shadowing acceptable to put on an application? Ooh, this is interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've actually even heard that question. That's actually pretty cool. And I'm going to actually use that now that when I go and speak to prospective students or applicants. But yeah, it definitely is.
I
sure.
agree. Yeah.
All right. And I do have another question. Let's see. This is an interesting one too. What are some red flags that you've seen in nursing application?
Getting the wrong school in your essay. Always make sure that you look at your essay and make sure that you are, noting the right school, the right program, because I've had that too. You want to make sure that you are like your application aligns with like your transcript. So like sometimes I'll have like GPAs are off, right? You want to put in the full thing, right? Don't just round up as well. But I'd say the biggest things are the school things.
Yeah, that or your recommender writing, addressing the wrong school. as well. So it's almost, almost the same thing. Um, I think probably another thing for us is um, using nursing as a stepping stone to maybe get into another profession in the medical field. You know, applying to med school and things like that. To our faculty, that is definitely a red flag. They want to prepare people to become nurses and, have a career in nursing. So yeah, if someone kind of talks about their future goals, yeah, I want, complete a nursing degree and then later on apply to med school, like that is a total red flag
I
for
agree.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Harper, you raised your hand. You'd like to ask a question?
Hi, this is kind of bouncing off what Mark was just talking about a little bit, but I was just wondering, you talked about the differences between, a typical BSN program and the entry-level master's program, but I was wondering, like, career-wise, are you still being just prepared to be a bedside nurse with the entry-level masters, or are there not alternate career paths, but, slightly different careers that you can do with the entry-level masters as opposed to a typical BSN?
Yeah, I'll speak specifically on UCLA School of Nursing, and the reason why is because we offer different certifications to go along with the opportunity of getting your RN, and I know Carla can speak on that. And so, like our BSN students who graduate and our MECN students who graduate, yes, are both going to be able to take the NCLEX to get the RN license. Our MECN prepared nurses are also going to be able to take two certifications, which one is the CNL, which is a clinical nurse leader, as well as a public health nursing certification. And so those do help you in terms of as getting into the hospital and being able to navigate in terms of whatever your ultimate career choice is in terms of being a nurse. But also having kind of graduate level thinking, graduate level work, all those sort of things is what's going to constitute as you actually receiving your master's compared to someone who has a BSN. So yeah, there are slight differences, but I think they are differences that are key in terms of someone who wants to navigate what type of nurse they want to be. Again, so right, like we have a lot of people who are interested in public health, and so that it could be something that you can do. Not saying that you can't do it with the BSN, but you are getting that teaching while you're in our program.
I'd say to kind of add to that, I think when you're in the program, because you're getting this broad experience, you can kind of take that anywhere, right? And kind of make it sort of what you want. So when you're looking at employers, you don't just have to go into a hospital, you can go into a clinic, you can go into, like, so for us, we have an annual career fair where we invite employers from the tri-state area to come and meet our students. And I mean, it really just ranges in terms of the employers that are out there, right? We have the military, right? Like you can go and work for the military as a nurse. We've had students work in a clinic with a homeless population in New York City, right, as nurses. And so there's so many different things that are beyond just being a bedside nurse and working in a hospital. Like there's so many different things that you can do, which I think ultimately you craft that, right, and you gain that experience in your nursing program, where then afterwards when you're seeking jobs, it's really tailoring and looking for jobs that kind of tailor what your interests are, if that makes sense. So don't just think of it as like this is the only opportunity that I can get. Think about it as like, this is the experience that I'm getting, these are the skills that I'm gaining, right? These are the different settings that I kind of want to explore. The other thing as well is that there are a lot of different scholarships out there. So like HRSA has a scholarship, right, that you can apply for. And I believe that with HRSA, you have to, like, if you get the scholarship, you have to work in a specific area. It's like an underserved area, right, outside of, in a specific state or location. And that in itself offers a lot of opportunities because one, it's the potential for, more money, right? But then also you're getting this experience and you're working with specific populations that you may not have otherwise gotten exposure to. So, it's not just, I think you have to kind of like maybe do your research on some career opportunities that are beyond sort of like the bedside, but yeah. know that there's a lot of opportunities out there as a nurse. It's one of those fields that you're investing in and you're definitely getting output on for sure.
Great, thank you. That was great. Thank you both of you. That was really helpful.
There's a follow-up question about the virtual hours. Should we include any proof of virtual volunteering hours on the application?
No, for us specifically, we don't ask for proof of volunteering, even if it was in person. Yeah, we do not.
Yeah, neither do we.
Alrighty, and then from Emma, are there other scholarships like HRSA that you would recommend looking into?
I feel like HRSA is the main one that I'm familiar with. I've heard of Robert Wood Johnson, but I'm not sure if Robert Wood Johnson, I would do some more research on that. Don't quote me on that, but definitely HRSA is the one that I know for sure has a lot of has that scholarship. But I'm not 100% sure on the other ones.
Yeah, correct. And then also knowing that whatever school you apply to and you enter, they're going to have a lot of internal scholarships that are going to be available as well through specific donors to that university and
That is
school.
very true. Yes.
And alrighty, thank you, Emma. There's another interesting question I wish I knew. Does a letter of recommendation need to come from someone in the field of nursing? This is interesting.
Yeah, no, it does not. It can obviously help, but no, it's not required. For me, really fast, I'll just try to say is that for your letters of recommendations, make sure that they are people that you know. And I always say that kind of seems simple or dumb or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, you want to make sure that they know you, obviously, and that they know that nursing is your future career path. Because depending on if they're writing a letter or if that program has a recommendation, form to fill out, you want them to be able to, talk about your abilities as being a future nurse. So that's really key. There's so many times where we get recommenders who don't necessarily know you as a student. They may have had you in their course, or if they are a nurse, they may have seen you volunteer with the sort of relationship extent. So take them out to coffee, make them become your mentor, whatever the case is, build that relationship so they know that nursing is what you want.
And Cynthia, would you like to add anything?
You were spot on, Mark.
I'm not sure. I mean, we're almost close to time, but maybe we can answer this quick question. It says, can a letter, oh, you already answered it. Alrighty, well, does anyone have final questions? We're almost close to the hour and I would like to respect everyone's time. Christina, if you would like to chime in.
Yes, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming. Mark and Cynthia, thank you so much for your time. Carla, you did an amazing job. I just had to sit back and listen and learn and use this information in my upcoming advising sessions for nursing students. So awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. And again, if there is anything the Career Center can do for you to help you with your decision-making, career exploration, application process, please reach out. That's why we are here for. Carla, thank you and congratulations on your upcoming graduation. And I'm sure you will find out what to do.
Hopefully the VA.
Yes, and thank you, Mark and Cynthia, for spending this time with us. Best of luck with Health School Fair. And students, if you guys want to visit Mark and Cynthia, please make sure that you schedule one-on-one meetings with them so you can continue this conversation. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Nice meeting you guys. Take care.